Hey guys, welcome back to the Lit Mag Lab podcast. I'm Jazz Marie, aka Naforo. So previously on the podcast, I was showing you around a literary arts magazine called Waffle Fried. Yeah. So again, not about food, not about waffle fries necessarily, but really cool. So check out and look back at that past episode. Again, every Lit Mag journal is different. Open windows, different calls. Throughout the year. So just be mindful about that. But I try to share different, structures of literary magazines and, online print or both or yeah. So today's episode is going to be what I call an existence sharing episode. So yeah, again, this podcast isn't just for submitters or writers or artists. It's also for publishers, founding editors, existing ones and future ones. So yeah. And I think also the next episode also will be that way. So a mixture from time to time here. So yeah, I just heard about this platform called Familiar, and that's familiar.pub. So through CLMP, and it was also through Right Bloody UK. um just shout out to them for this sharing this, right? So right Bloody UK, they are an independent poetry press located in London. I think they do full length books and collections, so they don't do chapbooks at all. But yeah, check them out too. That's rightbloodyuk.com. They also have a sister company that I found out about called Right Bloody North. Yeah, which is their Canadian one, I believe. So yeah. So Right Bloody UK and Right Bloody North, right? So check those two out, yeah. And yeah. And I'll put links to anything I mentioned typically. So yeah, so I'm gonna go over familiar.pub with you guys. This is just gonna be an overview of like the pricing plans, the overview episodes. And what I do typically, if it's a new platform or a system I haven't tried before, I later do like a write up of it, like pros and cons, what I liked about it, and just, share it out, through Substack and elsewhere, like in a text form. So eventually, I hope to circle back to this and do a little bit further deep dive of it. However, I will say again, I run Dippy Lit Mag, Dippy Press, right? We don't currently have any royalties in place, or we don't do that. We just offer, in the form of payment, 5 copies off to, authors. However, I know a lot of presses out there in the community do have royalty structures in place, of some kind. Some on this podcast I've covered even, right? So I thought it'd just be cool to take a look at this with me today. Let's just tour the website, some of the features, and you can totally check it out if it interests you. If you're a founding editor listening to this of a press, or you have royalties, or you're looking to start royalty, tracking and stuff. Again, there are probably other platforms out there for royalty tracking, obviously, right? Other presses have different systems for this, but in all honesty, I haven't seen anything really simple or very friendly in terms of that, like cost friendly. And this one caught my eye, and I heard about it, again through Right Bloody UK and the CLMP channels. I was like, oh, I gotta check this out and share this because I think it might benefit others to be aware of. So again, you can see my screen on YouTube, Spotify, and elsewhere. So familiar.pub, it states here it's all-in-one platform for modern publishers and authors. And yeah, so if we scroll down here, so you can see they have royalty tracking software, which is what I'm going to just cover for you on this episode. I won't go into the other, additional services that they have, and it looks like tools for publishers and authors. But they have other things that they it looks like help with, which is cool. So yeah, they have an integrated suite of tools that helps publishers and authors manage their workflow, track royalties, and promote their work all in one place. So yeah, it states here, right? Automate book royalty tracking across multiple platforms with intelligent calculations, customizable structures, and transparent payment tracking. You can import data from any distributor, and there's automated royalty calculations and reporting, free author royalty calculator, customizable royalty structures. There's a multi platform support with detailed payment tracking, automated statement delivery. And yeah, so they state here it's simple, transparent pricing, and you choose the features you need and only pay for what you use. Many features are free during their beta period. So yeah, familiar.pub, I think they're adding more to it. I don't know when they started, but yeah, they have a beta period. So that could indicate, right, they just are starting and adjusting things, maybe based on feedback. Some of the platforms I share, new things I come across, right? They mentioned they're in a beta phase or just launching and adding features, down the road. So yeah, so they have a series of features here, and it looks like it's usage based. So first 10 books are free, then it's $1 a book a month, right? Pay only for what you use with their flexible usage based pricing. 10 free books are included: automated royalty calculations, payment tracking, custom royalty structures, multi distributor support, automated statement delivery. So yeah, that sounds nice. I think that sounds quite cost friendly, and that they also, the first 10 books are free to do, and that's just $1 book per month. So it seems very very cost friendly. Let's look at a couple other features here. So there's this grid I came across, right, on their site, right? So the difference for publishers. So at the top here, it states royalty software for publishers, stop wrestling with spreadsheets. And yeah, I think, again, I haven't, dealt with royalty payments personally, but, in the workforce and workplace, right, there were times I had to create, financial tracking spreadsheets, cost breakdowns. I think one of the first ever, pivot tables or, spreadsheets I ever made was for printing, tracking the cost of like ink, printers from different locations across the company, and then trying to, really bring down costs by, eliminating certain printers that were necessary and, centralizing it with a more, suitable printer models, across the, production workflow floors and office spaces at the first company I ever worked for. So, yeah, spreadsheets can be a lot. They can be really, I think, time consuming to put together, and to, really um, do a breakdown through them. It can be hard. I think it's nice when you have either a visual representation or dashboard of some kind to help out, to help those calculations. And it's important that, royalties are calculated with accuracy, right, as best as possible. And I think it, helps, to minimize human error, to have additional tools like that. So familiar looks really cool. So again, it's automating those royalty calculations, and you can still, I believe, do manual adjustments to these. Yeah. So automates royalty calculations across all platforms, handles multi-contributor splits, and gives you back hours every month. So it's really to help you, stay organized and save time, as a publisher, which is nice. So yeah, spreadsheet errors do happen, a lot, and they can be costly. For even with small presses, no matter how large the publishing place is, of any size, I think errors are bound to happen. So it helps to really minimize that, right? So that's what it's striving to do here, and yeah. So let's go through. It says here like there's a red side and a green side, right? So without familiar, if you don't have familiar, right, then you're basically downloading statements from, probably multiple different distributors. You're manually entering data into spreadsheets, and you're calculating, manually doing, sometimes calculating splits for each contributor yourself. You're open to a lot of calculation errors again, and it can cost you a lot of hours per month, right, to do that, maybe even more, if you have a lot of publications you're juggling, right? So with Familiar, right, you just upload statements with one click. They're stating it does automatic parsing and calculation, instant contributor splits, zero calculation errors, spend 15 minutes per month, right? So rather than 4 to 6 hours, it's probably just taking you like less under, 30 minutes or an hour. It says 15 minutes per month. So yeah, I think, in terms of calculation errors, I think, with any platform or system, there is always some, sometimes there are bugs and stuff like that, sometimes, but for the most part, I think, a tool that minimizes human error, like Familiar, it sounds great, all for that. So yeah, just know that every platform in existence, right, it's not 100% perfect, but it's near to the point of like being able to help others do things in a smooth manner, more concise way, right? So yeah, it's stating here built for publishers, right? Error reduction, time saving, right? Automation, is a highlight. So they have a feature here that says coming soon in yellow, right? So author portal, right? So they're going to give authors direct access to their sales data and royalty information through a dedicated portal. And authors will have, essentially detailed reports of their sales and royalty calculations across all platforms, right? So it's very transparent. And yeah, so you really want consistency in terms of royalties and things like that. I think, it helps to have like a team member oversee that, if you're doing royalties and stuff, but it's totally possible to do it solo or with, a small team. Absolutely. But I think it helps to have that very organized. There are some presses I've covered on this podcast, right? That, if you look up some reviews, right, or things like that, there are, reports of, I think I came across Reddit and stuff like that, right? Other places I mentioned that royalty payments were, not on time, or not, there are issues there with royalty payments and things like that. And I think, every place has a different, system for royalty calculation. There are other, platforms out there besides Familiar. I'm not aware of any specific names. Sure, you could do a search for royalty, platforms or royalty calculation systems. Probably there'll be some that comes up. But I think it's nice to know that there are, other publishers already, really liking this, the overall of what they've created thus far, familiar.pub, and the features that they're adding, right? The author portal. So it states here you can import sales data from Amazon KDP, Ingram Spark, Draft to Digital, and other major platforms for unified royalty tracking and calculation. Again, you're letting them, the system, right, handle complex royalty calculations, including varying rates, currencies, and payment structures across different platforms. And you can manage multiple authors and their respective royalty agreements, ensuring accurate and timely payments for everyone. It says here keep track of royalty payments, generate payment reports, and maintain a clear history of all transactions. And then they're also coming soon here. They said there's going to be a sales analytics section. So you will gain insights into sales performance across platforms with detailed analytics and visual reporting tools. So how it works, right? They have it step by step. So it's 4 points here. There is data import, right? So you're simply uploading your sales reports from the platforms, right? And their system recognizes and processes that data into the correct format. So that's great, just extracting, a report that you have, and then, uploading those reports, and then it does all the, automated calculations, right? So then second one says author assignment, it matches the sales data with author profiles and their specific royalty agreements, ensuring accurate calculation of payments for each author. Then third, right, calculation. So the system automatically processes the sales data according to each platform's specific royalty structure and author agreements. Then reporting, right? So again, you're generating detailed reports showing sales performance, the royalty calculations, the payment histories for each author and platform. They even give some examples here, right? So just quoting off of their site again, the example for multi-book publisher. Let's say, hypothetically, right? Um, you know, Sarah manages 15 books across Amazon, KDP, Ingram Spark, and Draft to Digital. Before Familiar, she spent 8 hours monthly on royalty calculations, downloading statements, copying data into spreadsheets, and manually calculating each author's share. Now with Familiar, Sarah uploads all statements in just 15 minutes. The system automatically detects each book, matches it to the right contributors, and calculates everyone's royalty share. She can export payment reports with one click. They have another example here of a collaborative anthology, and the Realm of Shadows anthology has 6 contributors with complex royalty splits: 40%, 20%, 15%, 10%, 10%, and 5%. Sales come from ebook, paperback, and audiobook formats across multiple platforms. So with Familiar, that changes, right? Each contributor's exact earnings are calculated automatically across all platforms. No manual math required. Contributors can even log in to see their own sales data in real time. So yeah, they are adding some images here and examples of the dashboard, and that'll come later, so you can always circle back. So eventually there'll be more images and examples of their features here. Yeah, so they have, comprehensive getting started guides. They have a help center even, which is really nice to see, and I'm sure they'll add more to it as the other features come in. Yeah. Yeah, so again, step-by-step guides given for uploading statements, how to do it all, how the, automation works, how you can even do manual adjustments as needed, right? I think too. And how to add contributors, they have all that automatic detection. And yeah, so collaborative publishing guides they have, and you can understand, how the, to do everything in their platform, which is nice. They have a lot of documentation around it, right? they have this help center, which is nice. So yeah, if you have, questions, totally check it out. Again, the distributors, right? So I think there's a FAQ page here. We scroll down. I'll just cover some of the FAQ for you guys. So it says here, right, how accurate are their calculations? So they're stating, they strive for, right, 100% accuracy, right? They're stating that stat. Obviously, again, I said, all platforms, they're not throughout every single year 100% perfect. Sometimes there's bugs, sometimes there's downtime for maintenance or adjustments. But for the most part, I think, it sounds like they have established a really nice platform, something that's very simple and streamlined. So I definitely will be, looking at it down the road. We're not going to implement royalties with Dippity Press at this moment or anything like that. But who knows, as the series grows, or, just starting out with the Dippity Press has only been around for, less than about 2-3 years, right? So yeah. So yeah, who knows? One day may do royalties, and yeah, so their system, is regularly updated to match any changes in distributor royalty structures, and yeah. And again, for complex scenarios, you can again do manual adjustments to maintain full control. It says, happens if you upload the wrong file. Well, they state familiar automatically detects the file format and distributor. If you upload an incorrect file type, you'll receive an immediate error message before any data is processed. You can also delete upload statements if you make a mistake. And yeah, again, you can manually adjust royalty amounts, and that's great, which helps, in terms of like handling returns, promotional discounts, or special payment arrangements. All adjustments are tracked separately for transparency. And then it says here, the question is, how do I add a new contributor mid-period? So they said you can navigate to your contributors page and add the new contributor if the royalty split. When you next generate payments, the system will apply the correct split for the appropriate time period. You can also backdate contributor agreements if needed. And then it states here what distributors are supported. So they currently support Amazon KDP, Ingram Spark, Draft2Digital, IPG, and Asterism. Each distributor has a specific file format they recognize automatically. It says you can check their help center for step-by-step guides on downloading statements from each distributor. So that's nice. I don't know if you remember, or if you're just listening to this podcast episode first, or maybe you missed it, but I did cover distributors out there that exist. If you're interested on, various physical, book distribution, places, totally, I would recommend listening to episode 63 and then also episode 67. So 63, I covered Asters and books. Again, not everyone can get into Asters and books in terms of, help with distribution, right? They help with the shipping, and of book orders. And they also have, I believe, a dashboard, right? And for, publishers to see sales and tracking. And, publishers send them their inventory. They do all the shipping. Again, they have to vet your publication. They have to prove you, into their, Asters and books, right? So, yeah, episode 67 is where I covered other ones beside Asters and books and alternatives, to that too, if you can't get into Asters and books. But for the most part, I think Asters and books is really awesome. And, the other ones I mentioned look pretty cool too. But I don't have experience with physical book distribution, just predominantly, digital, places, right? So just covered those for you guys, places to check out, in terms of distribution. 63 and 67. Definitely look back to those episodes if you're not familiar with Asters and books, IPG, or other, distributors that I covered there. Yeah, and then you can export reports easily, it states, and yeah, and as CSV or Excel files, right? And yeah, it can be imported into any accounting software you have too. So it says, how does the system handle different book formats? So Familiar automatically tracks ebook, paperback, hardcover, and audiobook formats separately. You can set different royalty splits for each format if needed. Example, given 50-50 for ebooks, but 60-40 for audiobooks. The system matches sales to the correct format automatically. And currency conversion. So all royalty amounts are stored in the original currency. When generating reports, you can choose to view amounts in a single currency using real-time exchange rates. This ensures accurate tracking across international marketplaces like Amazon UK, Denmark, France, etc. So yeah, that's really cool. I think it sounds awesome. I'm gonna definitely check it out a bit later on. I don't have time to do it right now, But I would say this sounds like a really good solution for others looking for help with, tracking all of the royalty payments and calculations, because it can be really hard to do that. A lot of presses face closure, some from rather nasty lawsuits because of royalty payment issues, right? Not being sent out on time or not being provided, and mismanagement of royalty payments and errors. So you want to really have a good system, to really do that and to be organized, right? You want to have those reports all smoothly, organized to view. You want to make sure authors are also aware of, like, yeah, this is how much I'm getting, right? They should be able to see that. You should be able to be transparent with them on that. I think it's nice to have some sort of portal like that. So yeah, they have features like that coming soon, an author portal, it sounds like, and more things with yeah, their platform, which looks really cool. So yeah, they're gonna add, probably more photos in here and additional features. It sounds like some things are, beta right now. So yeah, they have some other, services and things like that, right? I think like manuscript analysis, editorial analysis, story beats. I don't know what that is. I can check that out if you want to. Mainly, I just wanted to cover the royalty calculator because I think the royalty calculator looks really cool. They also have, a free author royalty calculator. It looks like here. So not this one isn't for publishers. This is just for, authors in general. And yeah, so yeah, that's helpful. So they cover, it looks like, both sides, for authors and publishers, right? So yeah, they have a really helpful platform here, and yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm trying to think of anything else here, but yeah, so I think this is really nice. The features that I've read off thus far, would recommend, again, you check it out and sign up. I'm not going to do that right now because I'm not at the point where anywhere near being able to do any types of royalty setup or structure with our series and stuff at Dippity. But who knows, maybe one day. Yeah, if you're, running a press, you're going to start your own, press, or publishing, plays. Some literary magazines start and then they expand to do a press, right? And some do royalties and things like that. But yeah, so yeah, it looks like they have, right, some additional service they offer to authors, right? So not just for publishers, but I think also for authors they help, right? So yeah, again, it's just basically, you choose the features you need only, and they have pricing here, right? So yeah, the pricing was right here actually. I think that's where it takes you, this page actually. So it's not, I thought it was additional page. But yeah, so again, it's usage based cost, which I think is nice. Some people like to have a fixed bill, but I think in this case, with a royalty system and management, I think it's nice to have like a usage based plan. And yeah, it's fairly inexpensive. That's reasonable, I think, right? First 10 books free, then just $1 a month, for every book, right? And yeah, royalty management is really important, in the publishing world, especially when you're dealing with those. So I just wanted to share this. It's just what I call an existence sharing episode. So check it out. I'll drop links below. And yeah, really cool platform. Don't forget also to take a look sometime. Shout out to, I think, Right Bloody UK, for sharing this through CLMP. That's how I found about it, and I was like, yeah, that sounds really cool. This platform, I think it could definitely benefit a lot of presses and anyone dealing with royalties in general. Off to authors, it can be tough. I remember when I was looking into, potentially setting up royalties for Dippity Press, but I didn't really, it was really hard, to really find a platform or something maybe to look into that. So this is one I think to bookmark, to check out, sign up and maybe try out and see if it's something you like, right? I'm not going to do that on this episode or anything like that, but sometimes I circle back to platforms and do trials of, like Dapple, right? I did a trial of it, and I'm looking to do some interviews with various platforms and resources soon, a little bit further for you guys, and ask some other questions, a bit further. And yeah, so totally, subscribe to the mailing list I have for this, the Lit Mag Lab on Substack, and check out some of the articles. I do it from time to time. I think after this year and early next, I'll probably will again at some point in time drop off, but just trying to fit as many episodes in before the end of the year. So yeah, one to definitely check out, familiar.pub. And yeah, so I just wanted to share that real quick today on the episode. In the next one, I will be sharing an update on something I covered back in the past episode in terms of submission management systems, which yeah, I think is really cool what's happening. So just a hint at what's we're covering next. And take care, guys. Yeah, check out Familiar. Yeah, familiar.pub is their site. Yeah. I think you can request a demo, reach out to them, if you have further questions. But it looks like a pretty nice, platform, very organized, it sounds like. So, yeah. So again, there's no upfront cost to just try it out, get started. They give you like the ability to have 10 books in there. And then, and then it's just one buck for each book, right, that you have, right? So yeah, overall it sounds very, cost friendly, Again, this first 10 books free, then $1 per book a month, right? And yeah, so I love platforms that have, the ability to have, some ease of use, right? Automation, I think number crunching is really hard, right? So I think Familiar really alleviates that pressure and stress for publishers and editors, who oversee that. And yeah, it's not easy, royalty management. So I think you do definitely need some sort of platform or tool, dashboard for both the author to see and also you as a publisher to see on both sides, because it really, again, transparency is important. Authors want to be paid, properly for their work. If there are any royalties, they're, agreed upon in a contractual agreement. Now, again, not all presses can do royalties right off the bat. So usually what I've seen, small presses offer, right, what we do, right, in the form of payment, just 5 copies or a certain amount of copies, which is okay, to start off. I think it's nice to be able to have, royalties, or even, some presses and publishers, they do advance payments or one-time full payment too, which I've seen from time to time. But yeah, a lot of presses, do get shut down because of the mismanagement of royalties and failing to deliver on those, and lawsuits happen. It can be really nasty and messy. So really consider looking at, Familiar. I'm sure there are other ones out there, but Familiar, I think, sounds really cool. It looks like they're adding more to it. So, and before I officially sign off, I just want to emphasize and stress this, on their about section. It is built by publishers for publishers. So I believe they have, a background in software engineering, and then they moved into publishing, right? That world. So they are familiar with, like, how everything works in the publishing, world. I think that's really great to see and important, right? So, their mission again at Familiar is to, overall create a very phenomenal, comprehensive, best in class toolkit for authors, editors, publishers, and readers. So, extending beyond, what I said earlier a little bit further, right, to really help everyone, overall, involved in this world. And yeah, they state here they believe that world changing stories deserve world class tools, and, they're here to make that a reality. So yeah, they mentioned, right, cutting edge technology, adaptive and evolving. So I'm sure, over time this totally will evolve. It seems like they're just starting out. And yeah, same thing with some other platforms I covered on this podcast. They evolve. In the next episode, right, we're going to see the evolution of another mission manager, right, that I covered on this podcast, that is evolving, and yeah, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, you can read more about Familiar. And again, they are, really trying to help, authors, editors, and publishers, right, to make their lives easier ultimately, right? They have an early access, feedback section here. And I don't see any names in the about section quite yet, or any team member specifically, that I could find at this very point. But I'm sure that'll happen, or when you interact with Familiar, right, that, you'll probably see names. But specifically, but yeah, I'm sure they'll, update their site a bit further and keep growing. It sounds really nice what they're looking to do. And yeah, so it sounds really cool. One definitely to watch and think about, if you're, starting a press, or you want to actually do royalties. I think it's you absolutely do need some sort of, management system of some kind, to monitor that, to keep everything organized. Same thing, submission managers, right? As I'll cover in the next episode, another example of one that, has evolved. And, it's important to be organized with submissions and also with like royalty tracking and management, especially if you're a press, you're dealing with money, right? And payments, out to others. Some literary arts magazines out there do pay writers for their work and things like that. And I think, again, submission management systems, there are quite a few out there that have, central payment systems, things like that. But in terms of royalty track, sales from multiple distributors and things like that, it's really, really tough, nowadays. And I think Familiar, is looking to really change that, to really become a primary solution for a lot of publishers. Yeah, sure, there are probably other ones out there every year, in terms of management systems, tools for like royalty management I've seen, before. But I think this is really geared towards like really, you know, s- uh, small publishers, independent presses, and really looking to help, in terms of like getting all of those reports and centrally having it all, calculated accordingly, very to strive for a more accurate, accuracy there. So yeah, I think it's very cool. So again, I'm sure they're going to add more to their website. I saw some things, that said early access beta. So this will totally look probably different in the future a little bit further, as they add and grow. So they have other right things under products. I didn't go into that, but you can totally, look at it again. It's an all-in-one platform. I love when others say they're an all-in-one platform, for modern publishers and authors. So that's really cool. And yeah, I haven't looked at, I see infernalmoose.com. I don't know what that is, but yeah, so it looks like it's tied to that possibly, right? Infernalmoose.com. You could look at that a little bit more. I just wanted to share, Familiar with you guys today again. So I didn't go over every single page on their site, just mainly, the royalty portion of it, right? Royalty tracking software I think is very beneficial, to stay on top of that, what every author, should get in terms of their payment and, yeah. So that's pretty much it. Yeah. Take care, guys. I'll see you in the next episode. If this helped you, and any of these episodes, feel free to comment on whichever platform you're listening. Give a thumbs up, rating, or, yeah, that helps me and perhaps helps others see these episodes. But all in all, that's it. I'll see you in the next one. Yeah.